The emergency room lights were too bright for the amount of pain they were witnessing, and even though it was well past midnight, the world outside the hospital still felt alive with distant sirens and restless city noise. On a narrow bench near the pediatric wing, a single father named Ayaan Rahim, a 36-year-old man with tired eyes and a worn jacket, finally broke down. His shoulders shook as he pressed his palms into his face, trying to silence the sobs that had been building all day, all week, all year. He had promised himself he would be strong, but strength is a fragile thing when the life of your child hangs in the balance. If you believe that kindness still exists, that second chances can change lives, and that strangers can become miracles, please take a moment to like, comment, share and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ayaan had not always been this man hunched over on a hospital bench. Once, his mornings were filled with sunlight streaming through thin curtains, the smell of cheap coffee, and the sound of his daughter's laughter echoing through their small apartment. His daughter Mira was 7 years old, with curious eyes and a habit of asking questions that made adults pause and smile. Life had been simple before illness crept in quietly, before hospital visits became routine, and before bills started piling up like silent accusations on the kitchen table. Mira had collapsed at school earlier that day under the harsh afternoon sun. What started as fatigue had turned into something far more serious. The doctors spoke in careful tones, using words that sounded heavy and expensive. Tests, treatments, observation. Ayaan nodded through it all, even though his mind was racing. He worked 2 jobs, one as a daytime delivery driver and another cleaning offices before dawn. Sleep was a luxury he had stopped expecting, but money was still never enough. As the sun rose and fell, his fear grew heavier, pressing against his chest with every passing hour. By the time night surrendered to the pale blue of early morning, Ayaan found himself still sitting there, exhausted beyond words. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and quiet despair, but also of hope. Nurses moved quickly, their footsteps soft but purposeful. Outside the windows, the city slowly shifted from darkness to dawn. Morning light crept in, painting the walls in gentle shades of gold, reminding him that the world did not stop for grief. That was when he noticed her. She was sitting across from him, alone, dressed simply but with an unmistakable grace. Her hair was pulled back neatly, streaked with silver that caught the morning light. She looked to be in her early 40s, her posture calm, but her eyes carrying a depth of sorrow that felt familiar. Her name was Samira Vale, though Ayaan did not know it yet. What he sensed was something quieter, something shared. Samira had arrived at the hospital before sunrise, not because she needed treatment, but because she volunteered there anonymously. Few people knew she was a billionaire widow, having lost her husband in a sudden accident years ago. Wealth had not protected her from loss, nor had it softened the ache that followed her everywhere. She had learned long ago that grief does not respect bank accounts or status. Pain, she believed, was the great equalizer. As the morning grew brighter, Samira watched Ayaan from a distance. She recognized the signs instantly, the hollow stare, the clenched hands, the way his eyes kept drifting toward the pediatric doors. It was the look of someone standing on the edge of fear, hoping not to fall. She remembered sitting in similar hallways, waiting for news that would change her life forever. That memory pulled her gently toward him. When Samira finally spoke, it was not with pity, but with understanding. She did not ask questions or offer empty comfort. She simply acknowledged his pain, letting him know he was not alone in it. That simple act, that quiet recognition, broke something open inside Ayaan. Tears came again, but this time they were met with a presence that did not judge or rush him. As the day unfolded, doctors came and went, sharing cautious optimism. Mira would need treatment, but her condition had been caught in time. Relief washed over Ayaan like a wave, leaving him weak and shaking. He stepped outside into the daylight, breathing deeply as the sun warmed his face. For the first time in months, he felt the faint possibility of hope. Samira remained nearby, offering help in small, thoughtful ways. She brought coffee, arranged paperwork, and guided him through hospital systems that often felt designed to overwhelm people at their weakest. She never mentioned her wealth or her past, focusing instead on the moment at hand. To Ayan, she was simply a kind stranger who seemed to understand without explanation. Over the next few days, as Mira stayed under observation, the hospital became a strange second home. Daylight hours were filled with cautious smiles, coloring books, and whispered prayers. Ayan slept in a chair beside his daughter's bed, waking at every sound. Samira visited often, usually during the late morning when the hospital buzzed with activity. She listened more than she spoke, allowing Ayan to share his worries about work, money, and the fear of failing as a father. What Ayan did not know was that Samira saw something in him that reminded her of the man she once loved: quiet resilience, deep devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for family. Loss had taught her that kindness was the only currency that truly mattered. She began quietly arranging things behind the scenes, using her resources not to control, but to support. As days turned into a week, Mira's health improved. The doctors spoke with confidence now, their words lighter. Ayan's shoulders finally relaxed, and laughter slowly returned to his eyes. One bright afternoon, as sunlight flooded the room and birds chirped outside the open window, Samira shared her story. She spoke of loving deeply, of losing suddenly, and of learning to live with an absence that never fully disappears. Her words were not dramatic, but they carried truth, and Ayan felt seen in a way he hadn't in years. Before leaving that day, Samira handed Ayan an envelope. Inside were resources, contacts, and a letter explaining that his medical bills would be covered, his work schedule adjusted through connections she had made, and a small fund set aside for Mira's future care. There was no signature, no demand for gratitude, only a message about believing in people and second chances. Ayan tried to refuse, overwhelmed by the generosity, but Samira reminded him that accepting help was not weakness. It was survival. It was love. When she finally left, walking out into the bright afternoon sun, Ayan felt something shift inside him. The world still held pain, but it also held people willing to stand beside you in it. Weeks later, Mira returned home, her laughter once again filling their apartment. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating a future that no longer felt so fragile. Ayan returned to work with renewed strength, knowing he was not alone. He often thought about that day in the hospital, about the stranger who saw his pain and chose compassion over distance. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in the darkest moments kindness can change everything, please take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps spread these stories to others who may need them. Before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Comment below and share what kindness or second chance means to you. Because somewhere in a hospital hallway filled with light and fear, someone might be waiting for a sign that hope still exists.